ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Chapter 1. Questions by Vidura. Text 1. Shri Shukavacha evam etat pura prishto Maitreyo Bhagavan Kila Shatravanam pravishtena Tyaktava swagriham riddhimat.
Niti Mataji or Meera Mataji, please start English recitation.
Shobhra Mataji, maybe you can do it. Hare Krishna, if they are not here.
Yes, Mataji. Yes, sure. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Sukadeva Goswami said, after renouncing his prosperous home and entering the forest, King Vidura, the great devotee, asked this question of His Grace Maitreya Rishi.
यद्वा अयं मंत्र कुतो भगवान् अखिलेश्वरः कौरवेन्द्र गृहं हित्वा प्रविवेशात्मसात्कृतम्.
What else is there to say about the residential house of the Pandavas? Sri Krishna, the Lord of everything, acted as your minister. He used to enter that house as if it were his own, and he did not take any care of Duryodhana's house.
राजोवाच कुत्र क्षुतुर्भगवता मैत्रेयेयाश् संगमः कदा वा सह संवाद इत वर्णय नः प्रभो.
The king asked Sukadeva Goswami, where and when did the meeting and discussion take place between Saint Vidura and His Grace Maitreya Muni? Kindly oblige, my lord, and describe this to us.
नहि अल्यार्थो दर्शतस्य विदुरस्य मलात्मनः तस्मिन् वर्यसि प्रश्नः साधुवादो प्रबम्महितः.
Hare Krishna. Niti Mataji, are you there? Do you want to take over?
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Okay. Please start.
Say Hare Krishna, I will start. Hare Krishna. Saint Vidura was great and pure devotee of the Lord, and therefore his questions to his grace Sri Maitreya must have been very purposeful, on the highest level, and approved by learned circles.
Sutta vacha स एवं ऋषिवर्योऽयं पृष्टो राज्ञा परीक्षिता प्रत्याहतं सुबहव्रती पितात्मा श्रूयतामिति.
Sri Sutta Goswami said, the great sage Sukadev Goswami was highly experienced and was pleased with the king. Thus, being questioned by the king, he said to him, please hear the topics attentively.
Shri Shukavacha yada tu raja swasutana sadhun punyanana dharmana vinashtadashtihi भ्रातुर्य विसत्तस्य सुतान विबुन्धन् प्रवेश्य लक्षा भवने ददाह.
Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, King Dhritarashtra became blind under the influence of impious desires and to nourish his dishonest sons, and thus he set fire to the lacquer house to burn his fatherless nephews, the Pandavas.
यदा समाया कुरुदेवदेव्या केशाभिमार समसुत्कर्मग्रह्यं न वार्यामास नृपः स्नुषाया श्वासरे हरन्त्यः त्याह कुचकुङ्कुमानि.
The king did not forbid his son Dushasana's abominable action of grabbing the hair of Draupadi, the wife of the godly king Yudhishthira, even though her tears washed the red dust on her breast.
धृते त्वमधर्मेण जितस्य साध्यो सत्यावलम्बस्य वनं गतस्य न याचतो दूत समयेन दायं तमोजुषाणो यदजातश्रोतः.
Yudhishthira, who was born without any enemy, was unfairly defeated in gambling, but because he had taken the vow of truthfulness, he went off to the forest. When he came back in due course and begged the return of his rightful share of the kingdom, he was refused by Dhritarashtra, who was overwhelmed by illusion.
यदा च पार्थ प्रहितः सभायं जगद्गुरुर्यानि जगत्कृष्णः न तानि पुंसाम् अमृतयाननानि राजेरुमेने श्रुतपुण्यलेशः.
Lord Krishna was sent by Arjun into the assembly as the spiritual master of the whole world, and although his words were heard by some, like Bhishma, as pure nectar, it was not so for others, who were completely bereft of the last farthing of past pious works. The king, Dhritarashtra or Duryodhan, did not take the words of Lord Krishna very seriously.
यदोपहुतो भवनं प्रशिष्टो मन्त्राय पृष्टः किल पूर्वजेन अथाह तन्मन्त्रद्रशमं वर्याणां यन्मन्त्रिणो वैदुरिकं वदन्ति.
When Vidura was invited by his elder brother Dhritarashtra for consultation, he entered the house and gave instructions which were exactly to the point. His advice is well known, and instructions by Vidura are approved by expert ministers of state.
अजातशत्रोः प्रतियच्छदायं तितिक्षतो दुर्विषहं तवागः सहानुजो यत्र वृकोदराहि स्वशन्नृषा यत्मलं पिबेषि.
Vidura said, "You must now return the legitimate share to Yudhishthira, who has no enemies and who has been forbearing through untold sufferings due to your offenses. He is waiting with his younger brothers, among whom is the revengeful Bhim, breathing heavily like a snake. Surely you are afraid of him."
पार्थास्तु देवो भगवान् मुकुन्दो गृहीतवां साक्षितिदेवदेवः आस्ते स्वपुर्या यदुदेवदेवो विनिर्जिताशेष हृदेवदेवः.
Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, has accepted the sons of Pritha as his kinsmen, and all the kings of the world are with Lord Sri Krishna. He is present in his home with all his family members, the kings and princes of the Yadu dynasty, who have conquered an unlimited number of rulers, and he is their lord.
स एष दोषः पुरुषद्वदिरास्ते गृहान् प्रविष्टो यमप्यमत्या पुष्णाशि कृष्णाद विमुखो गतश्री त्यजा श्वा अस्येयं कुलकोशलाय.
You are maintaining offense personified, Duryodhan, as your infallible son, but he is envious of Lord Krishna, and because you are thus maintaining a non-devotee of Krishna, you are devoid of all auspicious qualities. Relieve yourself of this ill fortune as soon as possible and do good to the whole family.
इति उच्चिवस्सं तत्र सूर्योदनेन पर्वतकोय कोपस्फुरितादरेण असक्तकृतः सतसप्रहीण्यशिलः श्रुता शकराणुः जशो बलेन.
While speaking thus, Vidura, whose personal character was esteemed by respectable persons, was insulted by Duryodhan, who was swallowed with anger and whose lips were trembling. Duryodhan was in company with Karna, his younger brothers, and his maternal uncle Sakuni.
क एनमत्रो पजुहावजेमं दास्याः सुतं यद्बलिनो पुष्यः तस्मिन् प्रतिपः परकृत्य आस्ते निर्वास्यतम् आसु पुराचुवसानः.
Who asked him to come here, this son of a kept mistress. He is so crooked that he spies in the interest of the enemy against those on whose support he has grown up. Toss him out of the palace immediately and leave him with only his breath.
स्वयं धनुर्धरी निदयं मायां भ्रातुः पुरो मर्मसुताडिदोऽपि सहितम् अत्युल्बाना कर्णबाणैर्गतव्यथो यद्गुरु मानयानः.
Thus, being pierced by arrows through his ears and afflicted to the core of his heart, Vidura placed his bow on the door and quit his brother's palace. He was not sorry, for he considered the acts of the external energy to be supreme.
स निर्गतः कौरवपुण्यलब्धो गजाहवयतीर्थपदः यदानीम् अन्वाकुमत्तपुण्यचिकिरस्यो व्ययम् अधिष्ठितो यानि सहस्रमूर्तिः.
By his piety, Vidura achieved the advantages of the pious Kauravas. After leaving Hastinapur, he took shelter of many places of pilgrims, which are the Lord's lotus feet. With a desire to gain a high order of pious life, he traveled to holy places where thousands of transcendental forms of the Lord are situated.
पूरेषु पुण्योपवनाद्रिकुजेषु अप्यक्तुयेषु सरितसरहसु अनन्तलिङ्गे समलकृतेषु चचार तीर्थयात्नेष्व अनन्या.
He began to travel alone, thinking only of Krishna, through various holy places like Ayodhya, Dwarka, and Mathura. He traveled where the grove, hill, orchard, river, and lake are all pure and sinless, and where the forms of the unlimited decorate the temples. Thus he performed the pilgrim's progress.
कामपर्यटनमेध्या विविक्तवृत्तिः सदा प्लुतोदः शयनोऽवतुतः अलक्षितः स्वेर अवधूतवेषो व्रतानि चेरे हरितोषणानि.
While so traversing the earth, he simply performed duties to please the Supreme Lord Hari. His occupation was pure and independent. He was constantly sanctified by taking his bath in holy places, although he was in the dress of a mendicant and had no hairdressing nor a bed on which to lie. Thus he was always unseen by his various relatives.
इत्थं व्रजन् भारतमेव वर्षं कालेन यादव गतवान् प्रभाषम् तावच्छाशास क्षितिमेकचक्रा एकातपत्रम् अजातेन पार्थः.
Thus, when he was in the land of the Bharatvarsa, traveling to all the places of pilgrimage, he visited Prabhasakshetra. At the time, Maharaj Yudhishthira was the emperor and held the world under one military strength and one flag.
तत्रात्र शुश्राव शुहरर्विनाष्टिं वनाय यथा वेणुच्च वह्नि संशयम् संसप्तर्या द्रगदम् अथानुशोषन् सरस्वतीं प्रत्यगिताय तूष्णीम्.
At the place of pilgrimage at Prabhasa, it came to his knowledge that all his relatives had died due to violent passion. just as an entire forest burns due to fire produced by the friction of bamboos. After this, he proceeded west, where the river Saraswati flows.
Tasyam tritasyo sanasho manusya pruthor asitasya vayoh tirtham sudasya gavam gruhasya yacha devasya sa ashitsheve. Hare Krishna. Please accept my apologies for any mistakes. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. On the bank of the river Saraswati, there were 11 places of pilgrimage, namely Trita, Vasana, Manu, Prithu, Agni, Asita, Vayu, Sudhasa, Go, Guha, and Shraddhadeva. Vidura visited all of them and duly performed rituals.
Hare Krishna, Nidhi Mataji, Pushpa Mataji, thank you so much for that wonderful recitation.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. So, Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my respectful obeisances. I welcome all to chant Chapter a Day, Canto 3, Chapter 1 today, text 14 to 16. It's a wonderful opportunity to discuss Krishna Katha for my purification. I seek your blessings. And yesterday was the auspicious Bhadra Purnima and some of the day today as well, I hear. So wishing you all a happy auspicious Bhadra Purnima. We seek blessings of Acharyas. We can absorb ourselves and develop some taste to hear Srimad Bhagavatam and study it together. So let's recite prayers in that mood and seek blessings from our teachers, Acharyas, Guru and Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमोऽस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरो दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं कृष्णचैतन्य ईश्वरम्। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। Tatam prasangan mama virya samvido bhavanti rasayana katha tajjoshanada shapavargavardhmani shraddha ratir bhaktiranu. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Yes, third canto. In the past two cantos, the first two cantos, we have seen several philosophical episodes, spiritual concepts, and a few stories and multiple prayers. And third canto is totally 33 chapters. And so it is bigger than the first two cantos together. The first two cantos together are 19 plus 10, 29 chapters, whereas this is 33. And third canto has many nice stories, pastimes, many lessons to learn, many philosophical aspects and technical topics as well. So the technical topic will come in fifth chapter, which is creation of universe, but we've already studied the process of creation in 2.5. So that's good. And 10th and 11th chapter describes the nature of time, and that is also technical topic. Major chunk of philosophical teachings of Lord Kapila comes in this canto towards the end, 25 to 32 chapters, 8 chapters, where we will be revisiting the learnings of Bhagavad Gita, Bhakti Yoga, Gnana Yoga, bit of Karma Yoga, Karma Kanda, and some Smriti, which is the cycle of birth and death. So let's have a look here. The first 4 chapters of this canto is actually a conversation between Vidur and Uddhava. And from this 5th chapter till end of 4th canto, that is total 29 plus 31 chapters of 4th canto, that is 60 chapters, is conversation between Vidura and Maitreya. So it's a wonderful conversation. First 4 chapters is a summary of pastimes of 10th canto. So if we see here, I've just put kind of link. So in the beginning of this chapter, we will get the backstory and background that how Vidur leaves the home. Basically, Duryodhan insults and Vidura leaves Hastinapur and enters the forest, goes to pilgrimage where he will meet first Uddhava, then Maitreya. And Uddhava will describe briefly the pastimes of Krishna in the first 4 chapters. There is a summary pastimes of 10th canto, Krishna's pastimes, his birth, how Mathura to Vrindavan travel, Braja pastimes, how he's playing his flute, his childhood pastimes, his lifter of Govardhan. He will kill the demons, Kalya, Putana. So brief description will come. Then 5th to 12th chapter, how the universe is created, how Brahma manifested, and he offers prayers to the Lord. So Sarga and Visarga in brief is discussed there. Thereafter, chapters 13 to 19 of Canto 3 describes beautiful description of 2 Varaha Devs pastimes. One is Shweta Varaha, who appeared in the first Manvantara of Swayambhu Manu, and second Varahadev, who is called Rakta or Neel Varaha, who appeared in the sixth Manvantara, which is Chakshusha Manvantara. And before that, we will also see the backstory and background of how the birth of Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, the 2 demons, through Aditi and Kashyapa. And also within 13 to 19 chapters, there is a beautiful description of Vaikuntha and Jaya and Vijaya and 4 Kumaras pastimes. We will learn that. And 20th chapter, Brahma's creation is again described. 21 to 24 chapters is a detail of ideal household life of Kardama Muni and Devhuti. And 25th to 32 chapters, as we said earlier, is Lord Kapila's wonderful teachings. And chapter 33 is Devahuti's prayers, wonderful prayers. The canto finishes there, it concludes. So that is the brief outline of Canto 3. And we will see quickly the connection between Canto 2 and 3. The Canto 2 ended with definitions of 10 topics of Bhagavatam and a brief description of Sarga and Visarga. At the end of Canto 2, Shukdev Goswami was about to explain Padmakalpa, but suddenly conversation goes to the outer loop and Shaunaka Rishi expressed interest to hear Vidur Maitreya Samvad and requested Suta Goswami to describe it. So Suta Goswami quotes what Shukdev Goswami spoke, and Shukdev Goswami quotes what Maitreya Muni spoke to Vidura. So, and then in their conversation about chapter 8 and 9, Padmakalpa is described anyway. So, Padmakalpa description will come along as well in chapter 8, 9. Chapter 1, first 5 verses, Vidura's renunciation and Maharaj Parikshit's inquisitiveness is there, and circumstances leading to Vidur's leaving Hastinapur. So today we are going to discuss this. What are the circumstances leading to Vidura's, why does he leave? So just quickly coming up to verse 14, in text 1, background of Vidura leaving home is discussed. Text 2, Vidura left Hastinapur and he met Maitreya Rishi in the forest. And what is the reason? Why did he leave his home, which is like a home to Krishna? Because there Krishna had wonderful pastimes with Pandavas. So that home palace had become a dham. Why did he leave it? So first reason was family misunderstanding. Basically, Duryodhan insulted him. But the main reason is that he wanted to meet Maitreya Rishi and learn about Srimad Bhagavatam and hear about Krishna. So Vidura saw this as a wonderful opportunity to advance in his spiritual life. And this is how we will also see that how great souls, they convert crisis into great opportunity. Thereafter, Parikshit Maharaj asks for more details, and then in text 4, glory of conversation between Vidura and Maitreya is there, that how two great souls discussion is so purposeful, and that discussion is always very elevating and meaningful, and it provides guiding light for several generations to come. So even after 5,000 years, we are sitting here and discussing that conversation. So how sacred it is that we get to even we appreciate it, and it is adored by even very learned circles and scholars and philosophers. So that is how. And then thereafter, we see that Dhritarashtra in text 6, it says that he is not only blind physically, but by virtues of his dharma, and how he has this undue and obsessed attachment to his son. And that's how he, acts in unmentionable ways and treats Pandavas with complete injustice. And then there is much more to that, but coming closer to our text today, Dhritarashtra calls Vidura for consultation one day, because Vidura is primarily well known for his wisdom. He is known for Vidura Niti, but that counsel that was meant for Dhritarashtra, and he had access to this wise person's best and expert advice possible on this planet, but he never accepted it. So that is his misfortune. Just like Vibhishan gave good advice to Ravan to not kidnap Sita Devi and to return Sita Devi to Lord Ram, and thus he will be forgiven and Lanka can be saved. But Ravan did not listen. So Vibhishan had to leave the palace and he joined Lord Ram. Similarly, here Vidura also leaves. Because his advice is not taken, and he also leaves and goes to the forest to purify himself and to hear Harikatha. So text 12 says Pandavas have taken support of Krishna. Pandavas have great support of Brahmanas, Yadus, the kings and devotees. They have great moral, ethical, political, emotional support. Military support, everything is there. And on top of it, Pandavas are righteous and dharmic. And Kauravas are dharmic. So, there is no way they can confront Pandavas. So they should really return the righteous share. But even Krishna comes and counsels personally, but they are not ready to listen. So Vidura, Akrura, Krishna, everyone counseled Dhritarashtra, but he is so blind in his love for Duryodhana and his other sons that he has lost his power of discrimination completely. So that is what happens in verse 13, that this is what is explained again, that Duryodhana's consciousness, is so deteriorated and he causes the fall of the dynasty and the entire society. And thus we come to verse 14. So I will share the Veda base. Okay. Verse 14, we will recite today's verse. इत्युचिवांस्तत्र सुयोधनेन प्रवृद्धकोप स्फुरिताधरेण असत्कृत सत्स्पृहणीयशीलः शत्ता सकर्णानुजसौबलेन. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. While speaking thus, Vidura, whose personal character was esteemed by respectable persons, was insulted by Duryodhana, who was swollen with anger and whose lips were trembling. Duryodhana was in company with Karna, his younger brothers, and his maternal uncle Shakuni. Purport. It is said that giving good counsel to a foolish person causes the fool to become angry. Just as feeding milk to a snake only increases its venomous poison. Saint Vidura was so honorable that his character was looked up to by all respectable persons, but Duryodhan was so foolish that he dared to insult Vidura. This was due to his bad association with Shakuni, his maternal uncle, as well as his friend Karna, who always encouraged Duryodhan in his nefarious acts. So here we can see in text 14 that when Vidura was thus advising Dhritarashtra, Duryodhan comes there. And he was very furious. He was very angry with Vidura. Now we can see that Vidura is an honorable minister of Hastinapur. He is an elder to Duryodhan and he is on the level of a father. He is so respectable and he had even good intention when he counsels. But Duryodhan was so selfish, proud. He was so harsh and adamant that he doesn't even hesitate to insult Vidur, and he speaks very foul language, and he told him to get out of the kingdom. So here something we need to understand is that a devotee's life is not easy. A devotee will be put by Lord in certain circumstances because through that devotee may have to bear insult of foul words, harshness, even from materialistic people also. But devotee tolerates all of that and he takes it as his purification. So this is the position of a devotee, that he tolerates and he thinks, right, this is my purification. And throughout we have seen how Pandavas tolerated. And now Vidura is also tolerating. So we all know that Vidura actually had all the powers to actually discipline Duryodhan. If he wanted, he could have even punished him because he was Yamraj in his past life. But because of one incident took place, he was cursed. Thus, he lost his powers and he had to come to the earthly planet for one full century. So once upon a time, there was a sage called Manduka Muni, and he was meditating in his hermitage. That's when some thieves ran and they concealed in his hermitage. And when the people came to arrest the thieves, they arrested Manduka Muni also. So, and then the magistrate decided to punish the thieves and even Manduka Muni. So he ordered that they should be killed by piercing. Every one of them will be killed by piercing with a lance. It's like a sharp arrow, and it's called Shuladandan. So the punishment of they pierce a man's rectum with a lance, which passes up to his head, and thus it kills the person. So this is so like harsh. And then when Manduka Muni was just about to be pierced this way, the news reached the king, and the king at once came and stopped the punishment, seeing that Manduka is a sage. So the king begged forgiveness from him on behalf of the mistake of his men. And then Manduka Muni immediately went to meet Yamaraj, the Lord of Death, because Yamaraj is appointed authority that prescribes the destiny of the living beings, and then they get punished for their sins in hell. So Manduka Muni questions Yamaraj that why was I mistreated in this way? What's the reason for arranging such a harsh punishment to me? So the Yamaraj says that, my dear sage, in your childhood, you had pierced an ant with a sharp thorn. For that reason, you are now put into this difficulty. So the Manduka Muni said that how could you give such a severe punishment for innocent child's act? At that time, I was a child. So it's quite unwise and disproportionate punishment. And so now I curse you to become a Shudra, a low class person, for your unreasonable judgment, and you go to earthly planet. So thus he was cursed Vidura in his past life, and he becomes Vidur. And meanwhile, when he is on earthly planet, the hell was ruled by a personality called Aryama. But this is the beauty of the devotees of the Lord, that when even great devotee is cursed, they see blessings in which they turn it into a blessing, and they get special spiritual privileges. We can see that being Yamaraj in hell, but here he's hearing entire third and fourth canto, which is how many? 33 plus 31. 64 chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is the great fortune that he turned his misfortune into fortune by coming to earthly planet being cursed, but he heard Bhagavatam and took association of great devotees like Uddhava and Maitreya. So this is how we can see the verse 14, and then verse 15. क एनमत्रोपजुहावजिह्मं दास्यासुतं यद्बलिनैव पुष्टः तस्मिन् प्रतीपः प्रकृत्य आस्ते निर्वासयातामशु पुराच्छवसानः. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Who asked him to come here? This son of a kept mistress. He is so crooked that he spies in the interest of the enemy against those on whose support he has grown up. Toss him out of the palace immediately and leave him with only his breath. Purport. When getting married, the Kshatriya kings would take on several other youthful girls along with the married princess. Oh, anyone wants to read here the purport?
I can read.
Yeah, sure, Mataji.
When getting married, the Kshatriya kings would take on several other youthful girls along with the married princes. These girl attendants of the king were known as dasis or attendant mistresses. By intimate association with the king, the dasis would get sons. Such sons were called dasi putras. They had no claim to a royal position, but they would get maintenance and other facilities just like princes. Vidura was a son of such a dasi, and he is thus not counted amongst the Kshatriyas. King Dhritarashtra was very affectionate towards his younger dasi putra brother Vidur, and Vidur was a great friend and philosophical advisor to Dhritarashtra. Duryodhan knew very well that Vidur was a great soul and a well-wisher, but unfortunately he used strong words to hurt his innocent uncle. Duryodhan not only attacked Vidur's birth, but also called him an infidel because he seemed to support the cause of Yudhishthira, whom Duryodhan considered his enemy. He desired that Vidur be immediately put out of the palace and deprived of all his possessions. If possible, he would have liked him caned until he was left with nothing but his breath. He charged that Vidur was a spy of the Pandavas because he advised King Dhritarashtra in their favor. Such is the situation of palace life and the intricacies of diplomacy that even a faultless person like Vidur could be charged with something abominable and punished. Vidur was struck with wonder at such unexpected behavior from his nephew Duryodhan, and before anything actually happened, he decided to leave the palace for good.
Thank you, Mataji, for that recitation. I just want to share the screen for one verse. Yes. So here in this verse again, we can see verse 15 that Duryodhan says that Vidura is a Dasiputra. Instead of honoring him, he insults him. So we know that Duryodhan is very arrogant, he is ungrateful, and thus he is calling Vidura as a son of maid servant. Well, basically, Vidura is a son of Vyasadev and maid servant Parishrami of Ambika and Ambalika. So, through Niyoga system, Vidura was born, and his mother was not from royal lineage. Hence, he is a Dasiputra. So, more than that, again, Duryodhan says that we are maintaining him and he is speaking on behalf of the enemies. So, we will take away his role, his position, responsibility, and make him residenceless. So, for his lifelong service to Hastinapur, the remuneration we will give him is that we will just leave him with breath in his nostrils. So that means basically we will not kill him. And this is all he gets for his lifelong services here, that we leave him with a breath. So many times devotees insulted by material people by foul or harsh language, and in material world insults are common to devotees or non-devotees because that's how material world is. And even Narad Muni says in this 7th canto verse, Nindanastava satkara nyakarartham kalevaram pradhana paryo rajan avivekena kalpitam. The great sage Sri Narada said, O king, blasphemy and praise, chastisement and respect are experienced because of ignorance. The body of the conditioned soul is planned by the Lord for suffering in the material world through the agency of the external energy. So here we have to understand that both praise and criticism will come in material world. It is inevitable to everyone. But the good news is both are temporary and they are both on material plane, right? So one should not get too disturbed by it. And at the same time, both are arranged by the external energy, which is Mahamaya of Lord's potency. But here the thing is, Duryodhan has been very insensitive in using his language. Even though Vidura is Dasiputra, there is no need to publicly say this and insult him that he is Dasiputra. So it might be true, it might be truth, but sensitivity and maturity in speech is more important than knowing information or speaking the truth. if the truth you are going to speak is going to pierce someone's heart, then that truth should not be spoken. And that is the main thing here, that if one does it, if one doesn't have the right etiquette of using the right words properly, then they are insensitive, and thus that person may end up breaking relationships and trust of other people. Thus, words should be used very carefully, very sensitively, and maturely with everyone, devotees or non-devotees. Because here, Vidura, we will see in the next verse how he feels. He feels these sharp words actually pierce his ears. Can you imagine, like arrows piercing your ears, how painful that would be? It completely broke the heart of Vidur, but Vidur, being such a wise devotee of the Lord, his response is very, very graceful. So we will see that in the next verse. Verse 16. Swayam dhanurdvari nidhaya mayam bratu puro marmasu taditopi sa ittham atyul banakarna baner gata vyathoya durumanayanaha. Thus being pierced by arrows through his ears and afflicted to the core of his heart, Vidura placed his bow on the door and quit his brother's palace. He was not sorry, for he considered the acts of the external energy to be supreme. Purport. A pure devotee of the Lord is never perturbed by an awkward position created by the external energy of the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita 3:27 it is stated, प्रकृते क्रियमाणानि गुणै कर्माणि सर्वशः अहंकार विमूढात्मा कर्ताहमिति मन्यते. A conditioned soul is absorbed in material existence under the influence of different modes of external energy. Absorbed in the false ego, he thinks that he is doing everything by himself. The external energy of the Lord, the material nature, is fully under the control of the Supreme Lord, and the conditioned soul is fully under the grip of the external energy. Therefore, the conditioned soul is fully under the control of the law of the Lord. But due to illusion only, he thinks himself independent in his activities. Duryodhan was acting under such influence of the external nature by which he would be vanquished at the ultimate end. He could not accept the sound advice of Vidur, but on the contrary, he insulted the great soul who was the well-wisher of the whole family. Okay, so here in this, we can see that Srila Prabhupada has wonderfully explained, and we can see how that there are two energies of the Lord, external energy Mahamaya and internal energy Yogamaya. The internal energy works on the devotees of the Lord who have pure heart, and the Mahamaya works on non-devotees or even demons. So here Duryodhan is under the influence of Mahamaya, and we will see that how Vidura is under the influence of Yogamaya. Because when someone's heart is not pure, they cannot take a good advice. See, sometimes when someone is preaching, it could be a very good way of preaching and a pure preaching. But unless the person who is at the receiving end also has some piety or some purity in the heart, they will not be able to accept the teachings of Bhagavatam, because they are not able to understand the good advice or the preaching, because that receptive power is not there. They don't, the vessel is like, if there are holes in it, it cannot hold water. So in the same way, the receptive power should also be there, which is lacking in Duryodhan. That is why he's just not ready to listen to Vidur. Then further Srila Prabhupada says, Vidur could understand this because he was a pure devotee of the Lord. In spite of being very strongly insulted by Duryodhan's words, Vidur could see that Duryodhan, under the influence of Maya, external energy, was making progress on the path towards his own ruination. He therefore considered the acts of the external energy to be supreme. Yet he also saw how the internal energy of the Lord helped him in that particular situation. So Vidur is able to understand that right now Duryodhana is acting in abominable way because he is under Mahamaya, but internal energy of the Lord is working on me because I see only auspicious in this. In this, I see that this is good for me. All this time, I was so troubled trying to explain all these adharmic people giving good counsel that please return the rightful share of Pandavas. They were defeated by cheating in the gambling match. Still, Yudhishthir Maharaj is so dharmic that he took the punishment. They did 12 years vanvas, 1 year incognito. Then they came back, so returned the rightful share. But these people will not give it back. So Vidur is really tired and he has made so many efforts to make some sense, but they are just not ready. So he feels that here the word says Gatavyataha. Now this word is very important, Gatavyataha, because Srila Prabhupada explains here the word Gatavyataha without being sorry is significant here because Vidur was relieved from the tribulations which trouble every man entangled in material activities. Him being a minister was a material activity because he was constantly surrounded by these adharmic people. So, how much can he counsel them? They are not ready to listen. So, it is best, he thought, that there was no need to defend his brother with his bow because his brother was meant for ruination. He accepted it. Thus, he left the palace before Duryodhan could act. Before Duryodhan pushes him out, Vidur himself leaves the palace. He leaves his bow and arrow by the door, and he happily leaves because he wants to now go and hear some Krishna Katha. He wants to go on pilgrimage. Vidur could have even gone to Lord Krishna himself. He is a very dear associate and devotee of Krishna, and Krishna would have happily accepted him because that time Krishna was there living. But Vidura, being very honest devotee, felt that because I associated with all these people, I lived in their company, I myself have become contaminated. So let me first purify myself. Let me go to pilgrimages. Let me visit temples, take bath in holy rivers. Once I purify, then I am eligible to see Krishna. So this is another thing that by hearing Krishna Katha, like Vidura did, 2 cantos, one can purify to become eligible to actually see Krishna. Bhagavatam has that power to purify one from all the anarthas, all the contaminations. So we become pure to be able to hold Krishna within our heart. Bhagavatam has that power. If we hear in the right bona fide parampara, we are discussing the purports of Srila Prabhupada, and this is the way to do it. So there are many, many lessons here. Also, as we said, that Vidur really felt that the way that Duryodhan spoke really hurt him. But Gatavyataha means without being sorry, means without taking any distress, he gave up his position happily and he relieved himself, as Srila Prabhupada says, from this, activities and duties of being a minister to this complete bunch of adharmic people, Kauravas, Shakuni, Karna, Dhritarashtra, Duryodhan, all these people. So the thing is, one should not exert force on us so that we give up the position. We should give it up ourselves when the right time comes. And at the same time, from seeing how Duryodhan spoke, and in the beginning of the verse, it says how it pierces the ears of, Vidura. One should be very, very careful. It's important to empathize. It is important to sympathize with people and be very sensitive with our speech because sometimes someone might be even mean well, but if it is not coming across in the mood of a well-wisher, then that is also not right. The other person will not be able to accept it because they feel being pulled down. And at the same time, the receiver should also have some piety in the heart to be able to take a good advice. The third thing here we can see is that how Vidura turns crises and calamities and reversals as opportunity to grow internally and connect with Krishna. So we saw that how Vidura was insulted, ridiculed, and banished, and Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana are not listening, and Shakuni is manipulating. Bhishma is helpless; he is unable to say anything here. So as long as Vidura was in the role of a minister, he'll have to keep going through all this. That's why he felt that Mahamaya is working on Duryodhan. He acted as an instrument of Krishna in his life, and the Yogamaya is working on him, that he is seeing this as a great opportunity to go to forest. And he was very much hurt at heart, but he did not negotiate at all with Duryodhan. He quietly left, like a mendicant, he left, and he started visiting holy pilgrimage places. He meditated on Krishna, and thus he perfected his life. So he wanted to purify because he associated with Dhritarashtra and Duryodhan and Kauravas. So this is a mature outlook of a pure devotee, and it's a disposition of a devotee in difficulty. So a devotee will never get dejected. A devotee does not become depressed or demotivated or dysfunctional when there is a difficulty in the life, right? We can see from how Vidura perfected his life. He he did the right thing by leaving. And even in the last verse, we have seen Sa Esha Dosha Purusha Dvidaste, the 13th verse, right? That when there is hatred for Krishna in the heart, Duryodhan can never qualify to accept a devotee's advice. And thus Duryodhan lost the opportunity of a good fortune, of having a good advisor in his life. And Vidura gained the opportunity to hear Maitreya Muni. He went to pilgrimage to many holy places, and thus we can see that he heard Harikatha. So this is the way sometimes even we see like children, they are not grateful or they speak badly with their fathers or grandfathers, but they will not understand until they come to that position when their own children will insult, then they will realize that I acted badly. So best to learn from someone's experience than actually go through that experience himself. So another thing is that one should develop a positive outlook and develop a higher taste of Shravanam, Kirtanam, and thus we can relinquish the lower taste in our life, right? If we have the taste of hearing Bhagavatam, then as the Nindana Satkara verse says, then all the temporary tribulations will not affect us so much, because we know that situations are never in our control, but our response definitely is in our control. So when we detach from, positions and other things in this world, then like Gatavyataha, we can come closer to Krishna. So that is the whole point of this verse, that how Vidura acted is the right way of a devotee's disposition is that way. And the last thing here is this verse, that higher taste is this. What is bhakti? That whatever it means, that engaging all our senses in service of the Lord, right? Because Lord is the master of our senses. So when the spirit soul renders service to Krishna, then there are two side effects, as we had also discussed this words last time, that one will purify uh, himself from all the material designations, and when one employs all his senses in the service of the Lord. This Chaitanya Charitamrita verse, Sarvopadi Vinirmuktam Tat Paratvena Nirmalam. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. Again, also in this canto, it just reminds me that when all the devtas will go to Brahmaji, being in distress by the atrocities of Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, that time also Brahma describes Vaikuntha first. He tells them Krishna Katha. So whenever there is any difficulty in life on material plane, we have to do the needful, but we should also hear Srimad Bhagavatam along with those difficulties, because it will really put us in the right frame of mind. It will really equip our consciousness to be able to deal with those difficult times and rise up to the spiritual consciousness, and also develop a higher taste. Difficulties will be there, but it will not affect so much. That's what repeatedly Srimad Bhagavatam says, that why Bhagavatam is relevant for all the ages, all the time, for all the generations, for thousands of years to come. Because this is the only solution. Hearing Krishna Katha is the right solution on the spiritual plane, along with doing the needful on the material plane. But then nothing is really, everything is not in our control. So do what you can, and then hear Krishna Katha to develop a higher consciousness to be able to deal with difficulties. So that's what's my takings from these verses and the episode of the way the Duryodhan and Dhritarashtra have behaved, and how Vidura has really been in a very high state of consciousness, doing the right thing and hearing Krishna Katha. So that way we also got this knowledge of third and fourth canto. We are hearing what Maitreya and Uddhava are saying. This is such an elevated, amazing, purposeful and meaningful conversation, and I absolutely really like third canto a lot. So thank you so much for allowing me to, it gave me chance to revise and learn and go through this, because I had to come and speak here today. So thank you so much for your association. And yeah, if I made any mistakes, please forgive me. If you have to add anything or correct me, please go ahead. Otherwise, we can end the call. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, शिल प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय. थैंक यू. हरे कृष्ण.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, so we'll end the call. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mata, thank you.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Thank you,
Thank you
Mataji.
for that lovely
Thank you,
class.
Mataji.
Hare
Hare Krishna. Thank you.